everyone, happy new year and happy 2019. I have returned. I am back to making videos. God, there's a lot to get over here. A lot of news, a lot of notes, a lot of wrestling related things, a couple of shows that I want to review. But before I jump into any of that, one quick thing I do want to get into. On January 2nd, one Mean Gene Okerlund passed away, one of the great wrestling legends, or at least one of the icons of wrestling for me when I first started getting into wrestling. Mean Gene, probably the most famous backstage interviewer in the history of the business. To me, he was every bit as iconic to that era of wrestling, the 80s era, just as much as guys like Hogan, just as much as guys like Savage and Piper and Flair and everybody else, Dusty, everybody else that was a big star during that era. Mean Gene is just as iconic as any one of those guys because he was the guy in the suit that was kind of the voice of the product in a way. And he looked like, he sounded like he just belonged in that role. It was the role he was born to play. And he was just so great at everything he did. He was funny. He made things feel important. He knew how to sell things. He is, without question, the greatest wrestling backstage interviewer in the history of the game. One of the all-time greatest announcers in the history of the game. So I was really sad to hear that Mean Gene passed away because to me he's just as iconic as any wrestler because he was that much of a personality. Like very much like Bobby Heenan, even though Bobby Heenan was a wrestler. I guess Mean Gene technically was a wrestler too with that match with Hogan and those classic vignettes. But Heenan was known as one of the all-time great personalities, and I think Mean Gene is right up there as one of those figures, one of the all-time great non-wrestling personalities in the history of the game. And I think he was just outstanding. And anytime Mean Gene showed up, I remember, and I loved him in WCW too, just for the record, even though like you could argue that at that point it was like making their product look dated that the guy that was the announcer during the 80s was calling their show, but nobody seemed to care, and I certainly didn't care because it's Mean Gene. Who doesn't love Mean Gene? But I remember after WCW folded and or was bought out by the WWE, and when Mean Gene and Bobby Heenan came back at WrestleMania 17, I was watching at home, the pop that I gave that just to see Mean Gene and Bobby back in the WWF, I mean, I was happy. I was as happy as could be. I totally popped for that, and very happy. And Mean Gene always made me happy, always was a pleasure to watch, always added to whatever show or whatever program he was a part of. So thank you for everything, Mean Gene. Rest in peace. And my thoughts and best wishes obviously go out to his friends and family during what I'm sure is a very tough time. I did not watch Raw this week, but I did see Hogan's in-ring segment where he did the tribute to Gene, and it's like, man, I've never seen Hogan look that depressed on a wrestling show before, because you can tell that Mean Gene meant a lot to him too. So and actually, you know, I have a hard time picturing Hulk Hogan without Mean Gene. Like the two just kind of go hand in hand together. He was Hulk Hogan's greatest tag team partner. Mega powers aside, obviously, but yeah, there was great chemistry there. But Mean Gene, one of the greats, love him to death, and I just wanted to pay tribute to one of the all-time great wrestling personalities. Kind of start off my video making year on a somewhat somber note, but we're gonna get into some happier things. So you may notice that things are a little bit emptier back here. I've started to pack up a bunch of my stuff. I am getting ready for the move. There's been a lot of complications with closure on my condo, but I have been assured and I've been guaranteed that the condo will close this coming Monday. No more delays. And I will finally be a homeowner. So, in getting everything ready in the move process and all that stuff, it might cause a delay in some of my videos. Mainly the ones that I typically do monthly, you know, my top 10, my monster movie reviews, the kaiju movie reviews. The next part was, as I said in the last video I did, the next one I'm going to do is part 1 of Gamera, so I'm going to be covering the Gamera movies, and my next Star Wars review. Those videos might get pushed back to the first week of February, depending on how much time I need to furnish my new home and get everything in order. So there will be a new filming location in the next couple of weeks, but you know, it's kind of a crazy process right now. I was hoping, originally it was supposed to close on December 27th. I was hoping to have everything kind of wrapped up by now, but just annoyances. But anyway, so if there are any delays in me making videos, that's why. It's all because I'm in the process of moving and becoming a homeowner, which is very exciting. So there's that. But one thing that I am going to do that will not be delayed for sure, my WrestleMania live streams, which I'm going to be doing heading into WrestleMania. The link is in the description down below. So if you want me to watch a specific match, and I have not followed the results of these polls, by the way. So when I reveal the winners, I'm going to be surprised. I have not actually been checking up on these. But if you want to vote on what matches you want me to live stream, react, review, and rewatch, the link is down below. Check out the links to all the polls. It lists which match I'm going to watch that I picked, and there are links to the polls that'll help you decide which additional match from each WrestleMania you want me to watch. So all I ask is that you be kind, be gentle, don't pick too many bad ones. Please, pretty please. Pretty please. Again, I haven't been following the results, but I have a feeling I'm not going to like the outcome to WrestleMania 22. But I'll cross that bridge as we come to it. But I'm also going to be doing my next What Went Wrong is going to be coming before WrestleMania. So somewhere in February or March, you're going to be getting my next What Went Wrong, and it's going to be WrestleMania-centric. So that one's going to be fun. That I think longtime viewers of my channel are probably going to get a kick out of it. Although I might be just rehashing old material, who knows, but I think it'll be fun. So yeah, there's all of that. So that takes care of the channel updates. Let's get into the major things that are going on in the world of wrestling. A certain press conference happened today. I wasn't planning on this being the main topic of my first video for 2019, but it seems appropriate that this kind of fell into our laps. All Elite Wrestling is official. They had their big kickoff press conference earlier today where they made several roster announcements. They announced that their next pay-per-view event, Double or Nothing, is going to be happening on May 25th. May is going to be a great month for me because you got John Wick 3, you got Godzilla King of the Monsters, and now I have the sequel to All In. I've got Double or Nothing, the kickoff to All Elite Wrestling. It's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I might even host a party in my new place because it just seems perfect. I like the name Double or Nothing, by the way. And when I saw like the initial graphic for Double or Nothing, I kind of figured, well, the location's got to be in Vegas. I mean, that's got to be where they're holding it. And sure enough, they're holding it in Vegas. Several roster announcements. I think the most significant ones that were announced as being part of the roster, obviously Cody and the Bucks, that goes without saying, and Hangman Page. But also SCU, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky. I'm like, all right, that's a heck of a pickup. Marty Scurll will probably be there when his contract in Ring of Honor runs up. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Adrian Neville, Pac, is going to be part of the roster. I was like, okay, that's a big name to pick up. That's a pretty good one. And Chris fucking Jericho has signed to All Elite Wrestling. So I was like, oh my goodness. And there's still some hanging threads out there because it has been announced that Kenny Omega is leaving New Japan and that WWE has offered him a contract, but we still don't know where Kenny's going to end up. And that would be a major, major coup if All Elite Wrestling picked up Kenny Omega. So we're going to have to keep a lookout for that and those developments. That's going to be very exciting. So All Elite Wrestling, man, I'm excited for it. You know, it's going to have an impact on the business. I wonder how it's going to affect Ring of Honor. New Japan has said that they're going to continue to work with Ring of Honor, and I think Ring of Honor, they always manage. I mean, their roster's been drained like 6 or 7 times, and they've always managed to stay alive, so I'm not necessarily worried about them. I think they've got a very devout fan base that's loyal to the brand, and they've got plenty of talented guys, so I'm not necessarily worried about their future, even though these are some pretty big hits that they're taking. I think Ring of Honor is going to be okay. Lucha Underground, I'm wondering what this is going to mean for Season 5, because you've got this coming out. You know, some of those Lucha Underground talents, they're going to be looking for work. It makes me wonder, are Phoenix and Pentagon going to sign theirs? You know, what's going to happen to Impact Wrestling? Impact Wrestling, they've announced that their shows have been moved to the Pursuit channel and also simulcast with Twitch, which means I can watch it if I want to. I don't feel like staying up on a Friday night to watch Impact. That's not appealing to me, but you know, it's nice that I can watch it on Twitch if I so decide to do that. But yeah, it's like, I don't know how much of a negative impact it's going to have, but it is very exciting to see something like this get started up, and it is exciting to have something to be happy about in pro wrestling. I don't need All Elite Wrestling to be competitive with WWE. I don't need them to conquer WWE. I'll be honest, it would be nice if WWE got knocked on their ass. I would, because, and for the WWE fans out there that are thinking, oh, he's just shitting on WWE and he hopes they fail. Look, the last major creative high that the WWE had was the Attitude Era, and that happened after WCW kicked their ass. So I think that there's something to be said for when someone's breathing down your neck, you bring your A game, and I think that ultimately would be good for WWE to have somebody kind of knock them on their butt a little bit. But I don't need All Elite Wrestling to be that. I just need a really strong show for me to watch and something to be excited about. I'm already excited for Double or Nothing. I'm more excited for Double or Nothing than I am WrestleMania, and I don't even know what the cards are because it's like, oh, this is fresh, this is new, this is exciting. I want to see what they do, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. So. Yeah, All Elite Wrestling. My hats off to both of to both of the Young Bucks, to Cody Rhodes, and to everyone else associated with this. Hats off to you. I think it's very exciting. I think it's very cool. Best of luck to you. I wish you all the best, and I hope that you succeed. And I hope that All Elite Wrestling is around 20, 30 years from now, when I'm an old man. It's a very exciting time to be a wrestling fan when stuff like this is going on. So, yeah, that's basically all of that. I guess the next thing I wanted to talk about were a couple of shows that happened last weekend that I have not had a chance to review. I did preview them as I was closing out in 2018. I did previews for both of these shows. Which, by the way, I hope everyone liked the glut of videos that I just kind of dumped on you guys at the end of the year, because I really got behind in my video making, so I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna dump everything in one giant go. If you haven't had a chance to watch those, I did make a playlist for the last 5 videos I made at the end of the year, and I just kind of dumped them all on you guys, post them all in a week. I'll be honest, the He-Man video I did, probably the most fun I've ever had putting a video together, even though there were a lot of frustrations with getting it done. I had a lot of fun making that thing, and I really enjoyed it. And I know I said in the video that I will never do another 80s cartoon thing, but I had so much fun making it that I'm kind of like, maybe I'll do one. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe not a top 20, maybe a top 10 or 15 or something like that. And I've already got like, well, what show would I do? Would it be Thundercats? Would it be She-Ra? Would it be Transformers, G.I. Joe, DuckTales? I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe I'll do a tribute to Inhumanoids, because I'm one of 10 fans of Inhumanoids that remembers that show. Maybe Dino Riders, in which I will talk about, look, the show sucked, but the toys were awesome. Maybe I'll do something like that. Who knows? But I wish I still had my Dino Riders. That would be perfect. But anyway, show reviews. We had New Japan's January 4th Tokyo Dome event. Wrestle Kingdom 13 happened on Friday. I watched it on the Fight app, and overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good show overall. I felt like the undercard had some lulls in it, and it wasn't as completely awesome as some of the other Wrestle Kingdoms I've watched. Like last year's show, I described it as like the Netflix binge watching of pro wrestling, where every match blew my socks off, except for Tanahashi and Jay White. Every match, I was like, oh, give me more of this. Like every match just made me happy, and every match was different. Every match told a different story. Every match was exciting, and it was just a thoroughly entertaining show all the way through. 13, like I said, some of the undercard matches, while not bad, were just kind of there. I was like, whatever. That was the thing that happened. And maybe a couple of missteps, especially in the opener. There was a major misstep in the finish, which I'll cover that in a little bit. But the big matches definitely delivered. Like the last 3 in particular, I thought were great. And I was really blown away by the last 3 matches. So Wrestle Kingdom at 13, probably, if you had to twist my arm, I would probably say the weakest Wrestle Kingdom since I started watching at 9. So you have 9, 10, 11, 12. So, of the 5, I would say this one was probably the weakest, but still a very good show. Very entertaining, and I really enjoyed it. It was a time well spent. And before I get into the card itself, I do want to talk about some announcements that New Japan made regarding some of the shows they're going to be running in 2019 and into 2020. On the pre-show, we saw a little package of some certain shows that were going to be taking place. The G1 Climax is going to be kicking off in Dallas this year, which is very exciting. I'm like, okay. Well, a little experimentation. We'll see how that goes. And keep in mind, this is in addition to having the Madison Square Garden show, which is happening WrestleMania weekend, which I'm already super stoked for that. And they also announced that Wrestle Kingdom next year is going to be a 2-night event. Holy shit. And I'll be honest, that's something I've been advocating WrestleMania should have been doing for the last few years now, because WrestleMania right now, if you count the pre-show, it's 7 hours long. And Wrestle Kingdom this year, count the pre-show, it's 5 hours, which is pretty long. So if they want to like expand the show and do a 2-night event, I'm kind of okay with it. I'm like, all right, that's cool. And WrestleMania, I kind of said the same thing. It's like, look, if you're going to do a brand split and you're going to do like this ungodly amount of material, 7 hours, I'm like, instead of doing one 7-hour show, why not do one 3-hour show on Saturday and then one 4-hour show on Sunday, and that'll be WrestleMania, and see how well that goes. And I know that's like, well, you have the NXT show, well, they can push that to Friday, and they, it's basically, WrestleMania basically takes up the whole week anyway, regardless, so I think, and they could even, they have the brand split, they could do one night, first night is Raw, second night is SmackDown, or whichever side wins the Royal Rumble. Well, there's 2 Royal Rumbles now, but, I guess you could say like whoever, let's see, God, I don't know. I think I've talked myself into a hole here, but let's say whoever wins, fuck. Because, yeah, having 2 Rumbles kind of complicates it. But basically what I was thinking was whoever won the Royal Rumble would get the main event of night 2, the bigger night of the 2 WrestleManias. But anyway, that's just me completely throwing shit up against a wall. So let's pull up the card for Wrestle Kingdom and see what we got here. All right, Wrestle Kingdom 13. All right. There was the gauntlet match on the pre-show for a title shot at the Never Openweight 6-Man Tag Team Championship, a set of titles I feel doesn't need to exist. I've said that before. New Japan, one of my knocks on them, they've got way too many belts, and those 6-man titles can definitely go. But for a gauntlet match, I thought it was fun. It was a basic tag team turmoil style match. Nagata still looking as good as he does is amazing to me. Jeff Cobb still looks good. David Finlay finally did something that got my attention. It's like, oh, maybe David Finlay's not just a pasty, boring guy after all. Suzuki is still the scariest dude in pro wrestling and did well here. But anyway, let me rattle off the teams. It was, the winners were Togi Makabe, Toru Yano, and Taguchi. Number 1 in the gauntlet, it was Yuji Nagata, Jeff Cobb, and David Finlay, and they eliminated the first few teams before getting defeated by Suzuki Gun. Chaos was represented by Hiroki Goto, which I'm surprised at some of these guys. Like, you look at some of these stars, and it's like, man, this is a pretty star-studded pre-show match. But Hiroki Goto, Beretta, and Chucky T represented Chaos. For Suzuki Gun, you had Minoru Suzuki, Lance Archer, and Davey Boy Smith Jr., and the Bullet Club, the Elite, were represented by Hangman Page, Yujiro Takahashi, and Marty Scurll. Overall, really fun match. Just a good, basic excuse to do some tag team action, showcase some stars, and kind of warm up the crowd for the actual show. So better than the typical New Japan Rumble, which is typically just about as perfunctory a pre-show match as you can imagine, and it's just there to pop the crowd, literally nothing else. This one gave a little bit more than that and was overall solid again for a pre-show match, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Then we go to the main show, which, by the way, I don't know if I've talked about this in previous Wrestle Kingdom reviews, but I love the Wrestle Kingdom theme music that plays over all the video packages and everything. It kind of reminds me, I made the comment on Twitter, but it kind of reminds me of like the old school SummerSlams and Royal Rumbles and Survivor Series and WrestleManias back in like the late 80s, early 90s, where each pay-per-view had like its own distinct theme theme music. And that always got me more pumped for the pay-per-view than attaching like a real song to it, because the theme musics kind of gave the pay-per-view its identity. And like, especially for WrestleMania, the Grand Spectacle theme that they used at I think it was 6, 7, and 8. That theme music, I mean, I associate that music more with WrestleMania than any other theme song they've ever had, than any, even the next, at 9, when they started doing like that WrestleMania rap or whatever it was. Which I think a lot of people associate that with WrestleMania, but that Grand Spectacle theme just sounds so perfect for a grand show like WrestleMania. And the New Japan theme just gets me jazzed up every time I hear it. I'm like, yeah, that's the Wrestle Kingdom theme, and it gets me all pumped up for it. But anyway, opening bout was for the Never Openweight Championship. Will Ospreay defeating Kota Ibushi to become the new champion. Very good match. I think on Twitter I described it as if G.I. Joe characters Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow were wrestlers, this is probably what a match between those two would look like. It was a very athletically sound match, very intense match, very good stuff, a lot of crazy stuff that they did. When I saw Will Ospreay kick Kota Ibushi out of the Golden Triangle, my jaw dropped. I was like, oh god, that looked nasty. Unfortunately, Kota got legit knocked out at the end of the match. Which didn't turn into a shit show, but I guess a lot of those real injuries typically do to a match. But it felt like they wrapped up pretty quickly, and poor Kota had to be stretchered out of the building, which was unfortunate. You know, again, it's another example of a New Japan injury where a guy got hurt doing a spot that they had planned it. It's like New Japan, you know, you really don't need to like go overly stiff with things. You know, I said the same thing when Takahashi got hurt. I said it when Shibata got hurt. Hanma got hurt, and it's like, guys, you can scale back a little bit. You don't have to like try to murder each other with a lot of these hits that you deliver. But here's hoping Kota's okay and he's able to come back within a few weeks or so. But yeah, that was pretty scary when he got knocked out. But overall, great match. Good way to open up the show. Next up was a 3-way tag match for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. LIJ members Bushi and Shingo took on members of Suzuki Gun, Kanemaru, and El Desperado, and Roppongi 3K, Sho and Yo. This match was okay. This was one of the lulls in the undercard. It felt like it was there just to do spots, and that was it. LIJ won, which I liked. We'll play into that more as I talk about Naito and Jericho, but I like the result that LIJ won the junior tag titles. But other than that, this match didn't really leave much of an impression on me. It was just there to do spots, and that was it. So it was just a quick and easy filler match and nothing more than that. Aside from painting the picture that LIJ was going to be dominating throughout the night, it didn't really contribute much of anything as a match itself. Number 4 was a match I adored. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tomohiro Ishii. He defeated him to win the British Heavyweight Championship. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If there's one guy in wrestling that I enjoy watching purely from a technical work rate standpoint, and typically I'm not a guy that gets attached to work rate, but Zack Sabre Jr. is a master artist in there. Like, I love the dude's work. He doesn't do a lot, but everything he does matters. Every little detail and every little hold he applies means something. Looks like it hurts. Looks like he's killing the guy when he's probably not. And that's the art of pro wrestling to me. And he knows how to draw the audience in by doing simple things. And every move, every transition, everything he does just paints a beautiful picture. And I could watch that dude work all day long. I love the dude's work. Never, you know, and I've criticized the Young Bucks in the past for being too spotty in their matches. I have never had that complaint with Zack Sabre Jr. That's a guy, everything he does matters. And he's just an expert in there. I love watching the dude work. Anyway, he defeated Tomohiro Ishii, and I like the contrast of styles here with Ishii being like the bulldozer trying to smack the shit out of Zack Sabre Jr. and Sabre just being the real man's wrestler who could just take him down to the mat and work him. And that octopus stretch he locked on at the end was sick as hell. That was great for the finish. I love that was the finish. But great match. Best match of the undercard, I would say, at the very least. When you look at the 6 matches that preceded the 3 main events. I'm counting Okada and White as one of the main events. The 6 matches on the undercard, I thought Sabre Jr. and Tomohiro Ishii blew everything else out of the water. Like, there wasn't even a close contender. And the opener was really good, but I thought Sabre Jr. and Ishii really was the highlight of the undercard. Next up, we got another 3-way tag for the other IWGP, the Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. LIJ members Sonata and Evil won the tag titles against the Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. And the Young Bucks in their, I guess, what is their final New Japan match. So I guess it's historically significant from that standpoint. But again, the match itself it just kind of felt like it was there just to hit spots. And seeing a three-way tag earlier in the show kind of made this feel like a repetition. And this is supposed to be like the heavyweight titles, but when you throw the Young Bucks in there, it's going to look like the previous match with the junior heavyweights. So I didn't feel like it differentiated itself enough from the other one, and just kind of felt like a match that happened. And that was it. I didn't hate the match. It was just kind of one that was like, that was the thing that happened. Okay, next. And that was it. Again, it was cool that LIJ won, because now they're 2 for 2. They've won both sets of tag titles. They're like, all right, that's awesome. I like that. And LIJ's just on a roll tonight. That's awesome. But as a match, it wasn't particularly memorable and not one of my favorites. Although Evil's entrance was pretty cool. I liked all the little gimmicks he had. That was neat. Yeah, that was it. And, you know, if you're a fan of the Young Bucks, this was their last New Japan match, so you may want to check that out. But other than that, it wasn't like anything that special. Next up was the IWGP US Championship match as Juice Robinson defeated Cody with Brandy Rhodes. Cody, by the way, loved his outfit, dressed up in Jacksonville Jaguar gear. A lot of the reviews I read are shitting on this match, and I don't know why. I don't think it was that bad. I don't think it was great by any means. I feel like Juice's victory should have felt like a bigger deal, and this just kind of felt like a, you know, let's get the title off of Cody because he's wrapping up kind of thing. It didn't feel like Juice was really put over that well, and not that Cody fucked him over or anything. It was just kind of, it felt like something that they just threw out there and not something that was treated like this exciting big moment. But I thought the match itself was okay for what it was. I thought it was fine. There was a lot of gaga in there, which is probably why people didn't like it. Cody should have been disqualified when Brandy hit the spear and the referee caught her, but instead he just kicked her when JYD crowned the king and you know, bowed to him, and they did the whole thing where he took the cape and pranced around the ring or whatever. I'm like, all right, that was fun, that was cool. That's all I needed out of that match. I didn't need anything that special, and I felt like Juice's victory should have been a bigger deal, and LIJ's victory should have been a bigger deal, and it just didn't feel like they were. They just kind of felt like, all right, just get the belts on them and move on to the next thing, and it was like, yeah, that's a little disappointing. Next up was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match as Taiji Ishimori defeated Kushida, who wins for the weirdest entrance of the night. Yeah, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that episode of DBZ where they did the reenactment of Hercules, or Mr. Satan, or whatever. I know him as Hercule because I saw the dub first. Where they did a reenactment of his defeat of Cell, and they had like the people dressed up as Goku and Vegeta and wearing those weird like plastic heads or whatever. That's kind of what that entrance reminded me of when he had the guy come out as Doc Brown and he had the weird like tiny small person Kushida with the weird plastic head, and then they blow the smoke and then he comes out as like the transformed Kushida. I'm like, okay, that's, I mean, I love Back to the Future as much as the next guy, but that was a very weird entrance. And I love that Back to the Future has always been like a motif with Kushida, but I mean, who doesn't love the Marty McFly special vest? But yeah, the entrance was just really weird. But anyway, this match was okay. I was surprised that Ishimori just definitively beat Kushida the way he did, which I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I wish if they were going to do that, I would have liked it to have been more in the line of something like Lesnar and Cena at SummerSlam, where Ishimori just beat the shit out of him and won. But they didn't really do that here. It was just kind of like Ishimori, they just wrestled around for a bit, and then Ishimori just won. It's like, okay. But we also found out that Kushida is done with New Japan. which I think might be a good move for him because he's pretty much done everything he can do in the junior heavyweight division there, and he's not going to work as a heavyweight. At least I don't think so. So I think possibly going to All Elite Wrestling would be really good for him. I don't know. Maybe, possibly. That might be a good pickup for All Elite Wrestling. Might be good for Kushida's career. So that'll be an interesting move to track as we move forward. But yeah, Kushida typically has really good matches at the Dome. This one, it was just kind of there. Again, this was one of the lulls I was talking about. It was just a match that happened. Ishimori won, which I'm fine with that. I think Ishimori looks like a fucking beast. Dude looks like a machine in there, but not the most exciting match on the show. It was just kind of something that it was one of those matches where they just kind of went through the motions and did the title change and then just moved on to the next thing. So, yeah, up to this point, I would have said Wrestle Kingdom was like, yeah, I like the opener, or no, I like the British heavyweight match. Everything else, kind of take it or leave it. So I was waiting for something to like really be that big home run hit to kind of get the show on track. And sure enough, Jay White versus the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. Coming back as the Rainmaker with the old gear, the old hair, the old music, the entrance. Okada wins for entrance of the night. That looked amazing. I popped huge for the Rainmaker. I was like, yeah, that's the Okada that I fell in love with. That's my guy right there. And the way everything was going, it just looked like it was just a perfect setup for Okada to get his revenge, get his hands on Gato, and defeat Jay White. And I was excited. I was pumped. I thought the match that these two had was absolutely amazing. I thought it was great. Not like one of Okada's like half-hour classics, but it was a very exciting match that told a very exciting story. I fucking hated the heels. I wanted Gato to get his ass kicked, and every time Okada like did something to him, I popped. Like when he did the over the guard railing dive onto both of them. I thought that was great. Again, Okada is the master of the finisher reversal sequences. That dude can put together some of the most exciting sequences in any match ever, and this match was no exception. I thought Jay White came out of this one looking a lot better than he did in last year's Dome match. For those of you who remember my review of Wrestle Kingdom last year, I was not sold on Jay White at all. I thought his match with Tanahashi fell flat. I thought it was the weakest match on that show, and I just wasn't feeling it from him at all. In the last 6 months, ever since like this recent turn to the Bullet Club and betraying Chaos and Gato betraying Okada, and the match he had with the rematch he had with Tanahashi late last year, ever since then, Jay White's been slowly winning me over, and I've loved this angle with Okada. And I thought he came off really well in this match. I thought this match was great. I thought it was one of the best matches on the show. And my jaw dropped when he hit the Blade Runner and defeated Okada clean. I was like, what? And that legit shocked me. And I was like, whoa, okay. So they're positioning Jay White to be like a top contender at some point. For him to get a clean win over Okada in a situation where it seemed like it was academic that Okada was going to get the win, especially with the Rainmaker return. It looked like there was no stopping Okada. So for him to beat him clean, I was like, oh my goodness. This is going to be interesting. They are positioning Jay White as a top guy, and I'm interested in seeing where that goes. Because, you know, we got some developments from New Year's Dash, but we're going to be getting some more things coming over the next few weeks. And, you know, with Omega leaving, we're going to need some holes plugged, and, you know, we'll see what happens. You know, Jericho's... I don't know if Jericho's done... Well, no, Jericho's expressed interest in going after Tanahashi, so they're probably going to do that match at least. Before he goes over to All Elite Wrestling. But anyway, I thought Jay White and Okada had the best match on the show up to this point. And this was like, okay, that was a main event caliber match, but we still got 2 more to go. Next up was a no disqualification match for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship as Tetsuya Naito won the title back from Chris Jericho. This was great. I thought this was a wild, fun, great brawl. I thought the stuff they did with the exposed corner and almost working that into the finish. I would have ended the match on the first Destino because I thought that whole setup and how they worked the exposed corner was great. I thought all of that was great. So the second Destino just kind of felt like, you know, I felt like your climax was 20 seconds ago. But anyway, minor nitpick. I thought the match itself was terrific. I thought Jericho was great when he did the spot where he took the camera and he took the camera just so he could film himself flipping off Naito. I mean, that is terrific. That's fantastic. That's the type of stuff I love. Just great. That's great character work right there. And I thought a lot of their counters were great. I thought the drama was great. I thought the hardcore brawling element was great. I thought both guys did a terrific job out there. And Naito got a big dome win over Chris Jericho. So he's going to be positioned as a top guy moving forward. And now, playing into what I said earlier with the 2 3-way tags, LIJ, clean sweep in all their title matches. They won the junior tag titles, they won the tag titles, and then they won, Naito won back the Intercontinental title. So everything was coming up LIJ at Wrestle Kingdom 13. So that was cool to see, and that was a nice storyline throughout the night. So even though the 2 3-way tags I was kind of meh on, that story throughout the night I thought was very cool, and it was nice to have that. And nice to see LIJ get the spotlight and get to have major success at the Dome. Now, next year, with Omega gone, and yeah, we could possibly next year, is that going to be Naito's big crowning moment where he wins the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, where he finally achieves it? Because that's really like the one thing left that he needs to do that he hasn't done yet. So they can still tell that story, but we've still got a year to go before we even start thinking about that. But then we have the main event of the evening: Hiroshi Tanahashi defeating Kenny Omega to become the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. By the way, I love the Final Fantasy style entrance for Omega. I thought that was cool. I thought this match was stellar. It's probably, again, of the 5 Wrestle Kingdom main events since I started watching at 9, you know, the Okada Tanahashi at 9 was amazing. Their match at 10 was arguably better. You know, I'm trying to think. Okada Omega was outstanding, probably my favorite one of the Wrestle Kingdom main events that I've seen thus far since I started at 9. Okada Naito last year I thought was great, but was probably the weakest of the 4, which tells you how high caliber these main events are. Tanahashi Omega, where would I rank it among those? Not as good as the 2 Okada Tanahashi matches, and not as good as Omega Okada, but still very good. Still a very, very good match. I loved like the overall presentation of Omega being the younger guy that was trying to put the veteran in his place and healing it up a little bit and being a little brutal to him. And then Tanahashi got brutal to him right back. I thought the stuff they did around the announce tables was great. I loved all of that stuff. And the dragon screws that Tanahashi used to go after Omega's legs were some of the sickest dragon screws I think I've ever seen. I was like, oh God, he looked like he was really breaking Omega's leg. And it seemed to be impacting a lot of the things that Omega was doing throughout the match. So I liked all of that. I guess at the time I was surprised that Tanahashi got the belt because I knew Omega's contract was coming up, but I wasn't fully expecting a Tanahashi victory here. But it was nice to see the Ace get one last big victory at the Dome, assuming this is his last like major main event. We'll see. But I thought the main event was very good. I really liked it. Great match. 3 stellar main events to close out the Dome show, and I thought those 3 matches alone made Wrestle Kingdom worth it. Undercard, like I said, had a few lulls, but even with the undercard, I liked the opener a lot, and I really liked the British Heavyweight Open match, or championship match. I thought that was great. So Wrestle Kingdom overall, I'd say it's another great year, even though it's probably the weakest one we've gotten so far. The other ones, you know, 9 through 12, I'd say they were all like A+, and this one maybe is just an A. You know, but still, great show, worth checking out. Definitely, especially the last 3 matches. You're going to want to see those last 3 matches. I thought all 3 of them were fantastic. So, Wrestle Kingdom, another great show. Thank you, New Japan. Wrestle Kingdom, it's kind of taken WrestleMania's place for me as the show I get excited for every year, the major big show. So this year was another success, and good on him for it. I'm proud of him. That was another great show. But we have one more show from this past weekend that I watched. It was Impact Wrestling's Homecoming. I did watch this event. Overall, I thought it was a good show. I thought it was pretty good with some really good matches. Couple things came off as a little clunky, especially in the last 2 matches, but overall, I thought it was a really solid effort. I liked the venue. I liked that they were back in the Asylum and they made it look like one of the old Asylum weekly pay-per-view events. made it look different from all their other shows, but also had kind of a nostalgic feel to it. So it was, I thought that was cool. I thought the crowd was lively, and I thought overall it was just a really fun show. We opened up with the Ultimate X match to crown the new X Division champion. Rich Swann defeated Ethan Page, Jake Christ, and Trey Miguel, all guys who have never been in Ultimate X before. I would say an Ultimate X, it's that type of match that I've kind of gotten sick of. And you know me with multi-man spot fests, I kind of like... They're just there to give you spots, and that's it, and I don't really put much stock into them beyond that. But for that, I thought a lot of the spots they did were really cool. It was a hot opener to, you know, get the crowd excited, and some of the action was really good. I liked Ethan Page. He did better in this than I thought he would, because being the heavyweight, I was like, what's he going to do off of this thing? But he ended up doing pretty well and didn't look out of place at all. So Rich Swann got the win. I thought the action was good, and if you like those kind of spot festy type of matches, I thought this one was a pretty good one. Where would I rank this among the 812 Ultimate X matches? Better than a lot of the more recent ones that have happened in the last, let's say, I mean, this is the first Ultimate X they've done in like at least a year or year and a half. But, you know, I'd say it's the best one in the last maybe 6 or 7 years at least. It was pretty good. And I think the break from Ultimate X kind of helped make it feel a little bit more fresh as well. So overall, it was a good, solid opener. Next up, we had Dark Alley and Su Yung taking on Jordan Grace and Kiera Hogan, getting a victory. I gotta be honest, I'm not feeling the Dark Alley angle at all. It's basically the Phoenix angle in Season 4 of Lucha Underground. It's kind of the same thing, except, as I've said before, Lucha Underground does a better job of committing to its presentation style. Whereas Impact, it's kind of in the same boat as WWE, where they can't decide, all right, are they a live sporting event? Are they a reality show? Are they a weekly drama like Lucha Underground? Like, what are they? Because they seem to be trying to do everything, and because of that, things are kind of muddled. Like, a lot of the backstage stuff they do with Su Yung and Alley, I'm just kind of like, all right, who's filming this? Like the whole segment they did at Bound for Glory, I was like, wait, so... If this were Lucha Underground, it would make sense because it's understood that it's a TV show. It's not a live sporting event. And with Impact, those waters are a little bit muddier. So, yeah, not a huge fan of this angle, but I thought the match itself was okay. I thought Jordan Grace looks great. She's going to become a star for that division if she continues to be allowed to impress. I also, post-match, I popped for Rosemary's return. It was cool to see her back. So that was a nice little moment. So for an angle I'm not overly invested in, I thought they did at least an okay job of, you know, kind of working around it and giving us a few cool things out of it, namely Rosemary's return and Jordan Grace being allowed to look like a star. So that was all fine. I didn't hate this match. It was just kind of there. Next up, we had the Falls Count Anywhere match between Eddie Edwards and Moose. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a fun, wild, hardcore match. I mentioned it on Twitter, it kind of invoked memories of some of the old AJ Styles Abyss matches from the Asylum from like 2003 and 2004. Good stuff, crazy stuff. I like the ending with Alicia Edwards helping Eddie smack Moose with the kendo stick, because I think a lot of people thought she was going to turn on him, but she didn't. And I made the joke, it's like, the couple that fights together stays together. And overall, I thought it was a pretty solid, fun, wild, hardcore match, and one of the better matches on the show. So I enjoyed that. Next up was one of my favorite matches in the show, maybe even my pick for match of the night. Sami Callihan versus Willie Mack, where Sami Callihan got the win. No gimmicks, not a really big storyline here, but it was just two characters that are over that the fans are invested in. They put them together, and they put together a really exciting match. I really enjoyed it. Although I think this match hurt the main event. When they did the spot where Willie Mack kicked out at 1 to kind of paint the picture of like, ooh, he's a badass superhero, because they repeated that spot with Cage in the main event. And I think it hurt the main event because the crowd had already seen it, so it didn't feel as cool when Cage did it. And personally, between the two, I think it would have worked better in the main event, given Cage is like this unstoppable machine. Willie Mack is more of an underdog, like lovable babyface, so to him to do that, I was like, not a huge fan of that. But other than that, I thought the match was great, very exciting, and both guys looked very good. And just two strong characters interacting and going at each other and having a really good match. Callihan got the win and continues to be probably the MVP of Impact Wrestling, because he kind of stole 2018. So he's carrying that momentum into 2019. Next up was the Monsters Ball match. Eli Drake defeating Abyss, the Impact Hall of Famer. I thought the match was okay. It was about as good as it was going to be. If you're a longtime viewer of TNA or Impact Wrestling, you saw Abyss have this same exact match like a million times. So if you've seen this match before, if you've seen Abyss in this type of match before, you didn't really see anything that new, except for maybe throwing the thumbtacks in the referee's face and throwing the thumbtacks in Abyss's face at one point. I was like, all right, that's different. That's kind of neat. But other than that, I thought it was it was just kind of like the same thing you've seen from Abyss like a million times. For that, it was fine. The zip tie spot didn't get over as well as they hoped it would. I think what they were going for was the Royal Rumble 99 Mankind Rock I Quit match spot where Mankind is handcuffed and Rock just keeps wailing on him with a steel chair. The problem, though, is that instead of a handcuff, they use zip ties, and Eli Drake just couldn't get the zip tie around Abyss. I think that the zip ties were smaller than they needed to be. I think because I've worked with zip ties in the past. Putting up Christmas decorations, don't ask. But the zip ties come in different sizes, and it looked to me like he had a one that was too small to wrap around Abyss's hands, and he just couldn't get it. And so they just said fuck it and went into the finish, and it looked really awkward and kind of killed the finish a little bit. But overall, that didn't get over as well as they'd hoped, but at least Eli Drake got the win, and the match wasn't a disaster. It was fine, but it wasn't great either. So hopefully Eli Drake continues to shine in something bigger and better, because I think he's an underrated gem for Impact and for wrestling as a whole. I think he's one of the unsung heroes out there today. But next up is a match that I think a lot of people will probably say was match of the night. I might agree, except for a couple nitpicks. LAX defeating the Lucha Brothers, Phoenix and Pentagon, to retain the Impact World Tag Team Championships. I'm going to get the negative out of the way. It had the same problem that I had with a lot of Young Bucks matches, where they just treated it like a tornado tag and nobody was tagging in and out. And because of that, it's like, dude, why are you ignoring the rules of tag team wrestling? And that type of stuff is distracting to me. And I'm like, if you're going to do that, just make the match a tornado tag. It's a very simple solution. The finish was also a little weird because Pentagon was clearly shown standing outside the ring, but when Phoenix was getting pinned, he didn't break up the pin, which was a little weird. I don't know what happened there. If the camera caught something it wasn't supposed to catch, who knows? But other than that, ignoring that, I thought the match was really exciting and painted the picture that LAX and the Lucha Brothers were kind of like each other's equals with a lot of the crazy stuff they were doing. It was a very action-packed match, and it did have drama. And so in that sense, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Golden Lovers Young Bucks match from last year, where it had the same exact problem, where it was like they just flat out ignored the rules of tag team wrestling, but they put on a nice, exciting, dramatic match anyway, so how mad can I get? And this is kind of the same situation. The match was exciting, but them blatantly disregarding the rules was very distracting. So it's kind of like, I thought it was a very good match that could have been a match of the year candidate if they had just made it a tornado tag, because then that completely removes all the issues. But anyway, I thought the match was very good, very exciting tag match. If you're into this type of stuff, you're going to like this. It was a very good action-packed match and very enjoyable. Next up was the Knockouts Championship with Gail Kim as the special guest referee. Taya Valkyrie winning the title from Tessa Blanchard. Tessa. She makes me happy. But anyway, I thought these two had a great match at Bound for Glory, so I was excited for this. I thought these two could go out there and steal the show. Didn't quite happen here. I thought the match was fine, but the finish went into that territory where Gail Kim, as the referee, was kind of butting heads with Tessa, and then ultimately cost Tessa the title. And I was like, you're kind of making Tessa the face here, even though, yes, she was getting the referee's face, but it looks like she got screwed out of the title when she didn't really deserve to be screwed out of the title. And it kind of set up Taya as the heel, and some of the crowd started booing as a result. And I'm like, you're kind of making your face look bad here. And maybe that's the long-term plan. I don't know. But I didn't like how it came off. I would have preferred it if they'd done it in a way where Tessa got in Gail's face after the match, and then Gail hit her with Eat Defeat or something like that. I would have preferred it that way, because I think then it kind of, it kind of takes some of the controversy out of it. I don't know. It just when they make the face look that bad, it just doesn't work for me. It's the Cena syndrome, where there were a lot of times where like when Cena beat Ray for the world title, but Ray had a match earlier that night, so it just made Cena look like he stole the title. And we're just supposed to act like that's cool. And I'm like, nah, I don't really like that. So the finish here didn't really work for me. Match was fine. I thought Tessa looked great as always. Taya looked a little off in places, but... you know, but Tessa, she's a workhorse. I think she's fantastic. But yeah, match was fine, but nowhere near as good as the match they had at Bound for Glory. And then we had the main event: Johnny Impact successfully defending the Impact World Title against Brian Cage. Parts of this match were really good. Some of the stuff they did was great, and I think the basic overall layout was really good, but parts of it were also really clunky, and I don't know if it was miscommunications between them. I don't know if Brian Cage was nervous having a pay-per-view main event and just kind of looked a little sloppy in places. But yeah, not everything was hit as crisp as it should have been. Especially the finish. I mean, the finish, I think, is a well-designed finish where Cage was doing his like mid-rope suplex into the ring, and Johnny was supposed to roll him up and get use the momentum and swing him down for a pin. Unfortunately, they kind of botched it, and it just looked sloppy. I thought the idea for the spot was better than the execution. They worked in some of Johnny's castmates, I guess, from Survivor. I haven't watched Survivor in God knows how long. It's like I couldn't even tell you what's going on in that show. And that basically screwed Cage out of the title. So again, they set up their face to kind of look like the heel here. So when when Johnny and Taya were at the end of the show raising the belts, it kind of like, I feel like you're setting them up as heels, but then Killer Kross came out and attacked them both. So, and he's supposed to look like the heel. It feels like a lot of guys are getting screwed out of titles here, and it's like, it's kind of looking like a shit show. But again, I thought the match itself was fine, but could have been a great match if the execution was a little better and the finish wasn't as cloudy as it was. Although this may be part of a long-term plan, I don't know, because I noticed that at Bound for Glory, that show ended with Austin Aries looking angry and pissed off and storming off. And this show ended with Cage looking angry, storming off, and throwing the title down. So I don't know if they're building to something. I don't know if this is like an ace in the whole plan that they have. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I don't know, but it looks like we're going to be getting Johnny versus Killer Kross next. So yeah, the last two matches, a little clunky in their execution, kind of dragged the show down a little bit. But overall, I thought the effort was overall very good. I really enjoyed, despite my problems, I enjoyed the tag title match. I really liked the Falls Count Anywhere match. I really liked Sami Callihan and Willie Mack. And I thought the opener was pretty good as well. So there was a really strong effort throughout the show. I'm going to be nice and give it a B. I thought it was a pretty solid effort from TNA or Impact. It's just a shame that they kind of got in their own way a little bit with some of the booking of the main events. The last two matches in particular, I feel like fix those finishes. Maybe Eli Drake gets the zip ties to work for him. Maybe make the tag title match a tornado tag. Probably an A-level show if everything goes according to plan. But as is, I thought it was a pretty solid effort and overall an enjoyable pay-per-view. So we started off the year 2019 with two pretty solid pay-per-view efforts and two shows that I enjoyed. So that's a good thing. So thumbs up to you guys. But I'm going to be having more videos lined up for you guys over the next coming weeks. Again, there may be some delays because of the move and everything that goes along with that. But that is all I have for you now. So again, rest in peace, Mean Gene. Congratulations to everybody involved in All Elite Wrestling. I think that's very exciting. And if you also watched Wrestle Kingdom and Homecoming, hopefully you enjoyed the shows as much as I did, maybe more. But that is all I have for you now. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. It's a brand new year, and I'm ready to be making more videos. But until next time, later, everybody.